Hello and welcome to In Conversation, a show where we meet people who matter, people making a tangible impact, and people setting new benchmarks in order to make this world a better place. Think about this. Estimates suggest that every year we pour 8 to 10 million tons of plastic waste into the oceans. And since plastic can sustain for centuries, this threatens the environment and ocean ecosystem. So how do we get rid of so much of plastic waste? Can there be a long-lasting solution? Yes, there can be. And among those people who are working to find a solution to this menace is Haaziq Kazi. He is only 15 years old, but he is making waves with his idea. He is the regional focal point for Asia Pacific for the UN Major Group of Children and the Youth, and he has addressed the United Nations twice on the issue of sustainable development. Before we start our conversation with him, here's a brief introduction on him and his project that aims to clean the oceans.
Hi, my name is Haaziq Kazi, a 15-year-old kid, and I study in the 9th grade in India. I am an activist for the plastic pollution problem. There are approximately 5 trillion pieces of plastic floating on the ocean surface today. But that's not the worst bit. About 1 million birds and 100,000 marine creatures die every year due to consumption of plastic. I came up with a solution when I noticed that in a sink how a whirlpool sucks everything in the water and takes it down the drain. I used this concept to design a ship called Everest, which uses the whirlpool to suck waste from the oceans and cleans them. We also work close with the United Nations, aligning ourselves with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals number 12 and 14, and I myself being the regional focal point for SDG 14, Asia and Pacific. Did you know that there is a prediction that by 2050 we will have more plastic than fish in the ocean? I want to prove that wrong. Everest started off as a ship, but now it's many ideas and being part of many different people. I hope that it also resonates with you. You think twice about increasing your plastic footprint in the world.
Welcome, Haaziq, to Doordarshan.
Thank you.
Your idea of a ship is quite interesting. How did it all start? And considering that you are so young, when did you come up with this idea?
This idea first struck me when I was in the 4th grade. I was watching a few documentaries about the plastic pollution crisis, and it really struck close to me. Like about 1 million birds and 100,000 marine creatures die every year due to consumption of plastic. And there is no shortage of plastic in the oceans either. There's about 5 trillion pieces of plastic floating in the ocean. And even though I was in 4th grade, I knew that I really had to do something about this problem. So one day as I came home from playing football, my mom asked me to wash my hands. And as I went to the sink to get the dirt off, I saw how there was like a whirlpool of water, like sucking all the water and the dirt. So I thought, why can't we use the same mechanism to actually suck the water and the waste in the oceans and store it in some kind of like a ship, perhaps. So, so then I doodled a kind of like a rough model of a ship, which was like very, it looked pretty futuristic, and yeah, this is just how my idea of Elvis came to be.
So how exactly would Elvis work?
So essentially, what Elvis is it's an intelligent ship, right? So they surrounding the ship are saucers, and these saucers kind of gravitate, like they create a whirlpool to actually suck in the water and the waste. So it goes down a tube, and then but before everything, it there is a infrared sensor which alerts Everest for marine life, because of course we don't want to harm the marine life, right? So so we use advanced robotics to filter the marine life out, and then the waste is segregated as it goes down the tube into large waste, medium waste, small waste, and micro waste. And then the water is filtered out. and the waste is sent into the ship, into chambers for further segregation, analysis, and storage. And yeah.
So you thought of this idea, and then you must have told your teachers about it. How did they respond to this? Did they look surprised?
So the main place where I actually worked on the ship was inside my school, right? So my school had this club called the TED Ed Club, and there we had to work um, on any kind of idea which solves a problem that is close to you. So I picked the topic of plastic pollution, and it was an opportunity for me to work on my ship, right, and get guidance from teachers and students. So my teachers were also very helpful, and they really like I could approach them at any time, um, and just ask them about any ideas that I had, like for example, bacteria degrading plastic, so or any kind of similar idea which I had. So yeah, my teachers were very helpful.
What about your parents? Do they keep motivating you to pursue your interests? Because we rarely find a teenager coming up with such a thought. And you were barely, I think, 9 years old when you thought
Yeah.
about it.
So my parents were very, very helpful, and they were very supportive too, which I think is pretty important. Um, and they were really excited about this idea, and even the thought of presenting it in the studded clubs. Um, and then they really helped me to further incubate this idea and further work on it. They helped me create a more systematic process as to how the waste will get segregated. And also, I remember my mom really helped me create a small 3D prototype. It's not exactly a working prototype, rather how it will look like. So she helped me create it. And then even when I went on to present it in my international stage, my first international stage of TED Ed weekend, my mom and dad really helped me to like reach out to many people and really really bring Everest to what it was, which was very rudimentary, to a more like a more efficient and more realistic model. So yeah, they were really really supportive.
And is this a topic of discussion with your friends? Do they also motivate you?
Yeah, I like again in the studied clubs, we were all in it together, right? And everyone had like other amazing ideas, and then we were really like collaborating with each other. And even now, my friends are really interested in this topic. Like, um, um, so one of my friends really approached me, and they like really ask questions about how the ship will work. They also even like one friend also asked me if they want they can work on it, like help me to advance it further. He was really interested in fuel, and so yeah, my friends are also very supportive.
You thought of the idea when you were just 9, you're 15 years old now. At what stage is the idea? Have you worked upon it?
So again, the ship is constantly being worked upon. When I first presented it in the TED Ed clubs, it was again very basic, right? It was like a circular ship, and then it had saucers attached to it. But now it looks like a more realistic thing, which is more hydrodynamic and more, much more like what you would see as a real ship, right? um, and then again it's also constantly evolving, like the waste capture mechanism, the fuel it uses, and like hydrodynamics, and all of that is just constantly being worked upon. But I think another thing, it has also evolved to much more like to an idea which actually resonates with people and inspires them to bring about the change. So what inspired me also to pivot to a more awareness based thing was when the youth actually approached me, like lots of children, and they asked me, how do I work on this problem? Because they also want to work on this problem. The youth are very very motivated, but I think they just lack a platform. So with that in mind, I set up the Everest Foundation, named after my ship, and we're just focusing on educating the youth and giving them a platform for them to work on the plastic waste crisis, and bring about a generational change in the way the youth of today deals and consumes plastic. So there we have many initiatives like blue workshops where we go to schools and teach them about plastic. Blue circle where we invite youth, and then they just have like a few sessions together, and then that happens is just discussions about the plastic waste problem and its various topics, and also how to solve them. And then like what we focus over there is like creating a chain reaction where the youth who are part of Blue Circle will launch another such initiative that will teach other children, and then so on. Then we also have a zero waste marketplace where we sell eco-friendly products. We also have an app to calculate plastic footprint. And then the last one is our incubation lab, where we not only work on ideas such as Everest the ship and try to make that a reality, but also help other children to get their moonshot projects a reality. So it's the idea of Everest has really evolved from a ship, which is moonshot and it takes like so much money and effort, to something which is an idea which resonates with people, and it's a platform for youth.
So, Haaziq, this is a ship which is not just limited to removing plastic waste from the surface of the oceans, right? Because you're thinking beyond that. You're thinking at analyzing the waste and recycling the waste as well.
The thing about the plastic waste crisis is that we're not very aware about some of its like specific details. And if you want to solve a problem, we really need to understand it, right? This is the reason why I really want to do analytics with the plastic waste um, I capture, so that we understand like what kind of plastic plagues a certain area of the oceans, or what which plastic is more prominent. Is it a kind of plastic which is less photodegradable or more photodegradable? Because if it's more photodegradable, then it turns into microplastics, which are like very very tiny pieces of plastic, and it's very difficult to manage. So, and then like how the marine life is affected and how much plastic is then in which place, like plastic density, the density of plastic in the oceans. So yeah, it's just I feel like it's really important to do analytics just to understand the problem, and although also helps generate awareness about it, right? With more facts, more people can become more aware about this problem, and then they can also rise up to do something about it. So that's why I feel analytics are pretty important.
In 2020, you had addressed the high level political forum of the UN on sustainable development, where you spoke on transformative ways to realize the 2030 agenda. To your mind, what is the magnitude of the crisis at hand?
It's a huge problem, right? Like I said before, there's 5 trillion pieces of plastic floating in the ocean, but that's just a number, right? It's difficult to imagine. So if you were to take all the plastic from the ocean surface and pile it up, do you know how far it would go? Like it would
Go
be
ahead.
enough to stack it up from here to the moon and back twice. So that's like 4 lines of plastic from here to the moon. And from Earth to the moon is a huge distance, right? And it is just a huge amount of plastic that really plagues our oceans. And it also comes back to us, right? Biologists have found plastic inside our bodies because the fish that they actually consume that plastic, and then we consume the fish, right? So about 50% of all sea turtles have been found with plastic in them, and 90% of birds have also been found with plastic in them. And it's just a huge problem. Like, and then the amount of plastic in we're dumping into the oceans aren't decreasing either. About like it's the amount of plastic we're dumping in is equivalent to one garbage truck putting in plastic in the oceans every minute, right? And it's also estimated to our rate of dumping plastic in the oceans is also estimated to double in the next 11 years. So yeah, it's just a huge problem, which needs um, urgent urgent solutions.
And you've thought of Airways as one of the solutions to the plastic waste menace. What is your long term vision for it? Do you see it manning the oceans and cleaning them?
Definitely, I really see Everest and multiple units of Everest trying to clean up the waste that plagues our oceans and sucking all the damage that we have done to the marine ecosystem, and just being and seeing a marine ecosystem prosper. I also want to experiment with ways that Everest can suck up plastic, such as the plastic in beaches and this plastic under the surface of the ocean, which are also like very important. But my vision of Everest as an idea is to see the youth being the forefront of change and humanity rising up to um, to reverse the wave of the plastic pollution crisis. And there's this prediction that by 2050, we would have more plastic in the ocean than fish, which is a horrifying prediction, right? And my vision of Everest is just to prove that prediction wrong.
Well, you referred to your interactions with children. When you interact with them, what's the sense that you get? Do you see some eagerness, or do you see a lot of eagerness among the youth to adopt greener ways?
Definitely, this is really why I set up the foundation in the first place. The youth really wanted to know what they can do about this problem, and the foundation is why I set it up to give them a platform to work on it, and just interacting with so many youth and just meeting lots of children and seeing their passion about doing something against this problem, and seeing their drive and eagerness is just also really inspiring. And there are so many kids who are very passionate and really want to do something about this problem. And I think it's just really important for them to receive a platform so that they can fight against the plastic pollution crisis.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given a clarion call to rid the country of single-use plastic by 2022, and that can only happen with behavioral change. Haaziq, do you see India going in that direction?
The thing about plastic is that it's a habit, right? Um, so it's convenient, it's easy to use, and humans really want convenience, right? It's very easy to just get that plastic water bottle and just dispose it after you're done, rather than taking a metal bottle with you the whole trip, right? But we really need to bring about a behavioral change and bring and introduce it slowly, right? We can't simply just hold plastic and then expect everyone to follow that. It's pretty difficult, right? So we need to have a slow change, a slow and just get rid of this habit, right? You can't expect to break this habit just like that. So we need to have, and but I definitely see India trying to um, really pull up their stocks and avoid using single-use plastics.
When you addressed the UN, Haaziq, on the eve of the 75th anniversary, you said that the COVID-19 pandemic has aggravated the plastic waste menace. If that is the case, do you see the world making extra progress to achieve the SDGs well in time, that is by 2030, particularly the SDG 14, with which you are closely associated, of conserving the oceans?
The pandemic has had a huge impact on the plastic waste crisis, right? We see that there's a lot of PPE kits, such as masks and gloves, that are in use. And I remember reading this article. This was 6 months back. That we have more plastic masks than jellyfishes in the oceans. And again, this is 6 months back, right? It's just difficult to imagine how much more plastic has been dumped into the ocean due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think that if we really try to bring about a behavioral change and really try to work hard towards um, reducing our plastic usage, doing simple things every day, such as reuse, reduce, and recycling of plastic, and just a single individual avoiding plastic. I think that will go a huge way in achieving SDG 14. And also and it's just not the individual scale, but even societies and governments really need to enforce policies that reduce the consumption of a single-use plastic. So if we really try our best, and I think that we can really reduce the amount of plastic that we use and achieve SDG 14 by 2030.
And I see, Haaziq, that you've been using very, very innovative ways to communicate your message on conserving the ecosystem. What made you use rap to spread awareness?
So the thing about music, it's universal, right? It has universal appeal, and it also helps branch out to a bigger audience. Um, and this is just the main reason that I chose rap as a medium. And I also look forward to using various other mediums to like spread awareness about the plastic waste crisis.
So, would you like to rap for our viewers?
Yeah, sure. I'll just a moment.
Did you know that atmosphere is polluted? Did you know groundwater is contaminated? You might not care much about these issues, but beware, the pollutant has made it to our tissues. It's present everywhere now, it's creating a sphere. It also kills a million birds and sea animals every year, yet the increase in its usage still remains drastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about plastic. When it comes to nature, plastic has a merit. Is it a plasticated world you wanna inherit? Let's solve this problem together, you and me, cause we must be the change that we wanna see. It's convenient to use and easy to make, but did you ever wonder what is at stake? While it's made from natural materials and not much is lost, if we don't slow down our future is what it'll cost. Cannot be burned, it produces toxic fumes. To pile it up and store is a lot of space consumed, and we must rethink the scene and proceed with caution, cause along with land and air it also destroys the ocean. When it comes to nature, plastic has a merit. Is it a plasticated world you wanna inherit? Let's solve this problem together, you and me, cause we must be the change that we wanna see.
Queremos la vida marina, los peces son muy divina. Abrir los ojos y ver con corazones cuáles son las razones. El mar lleno con plásticos y no tenemos acciones drásticos. In your city, no fish, no bird, no seal look pretty. I mean you, the youth, los jóvenes. Juntos, let's together address these puntos, clean the seas. This is the moment you've got to seize.
Lots of animals ingest plastic every day. Fish and seabirds mistake it for their prey. If we continue to recklessly dispose plastic into the sea, there'll be more plastic bottles and fish by 2050. If you're wondering what we can do, well in that case, ladies and gents, let me tell you, don't just sit around the house and wait. Go out there, find people and educate. Now stepping out these days might be a challenge, but with internet on our side, we can still manage. Just search up the facts and take a good look and share them on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. What about the waste that meanders into deep sea? For that I designed a ship to slurp it in with ease. Maybe today the idea sounds a bit sublime, but I promise with your help we'll be there in no time. When it comes to nature, plastic has no merit. Is it a plasticated world you wanna inherit? Let's solve this problem together, you and me, cause we must be the change that we wanna see. When it comes to nature, plastic has no merit. Is it a plasticated world we wanna inherit? Let's solve this problem together, you and me, cause we must be the change that we wanna see.
We must be the change that we want to see.
Awesome, Haaziq. This definitely has more convincing power than plain simple talk. Haaziq, we come across these disturbing pictures of dead whales washing ashore on the beaches of many countries just because they've consumed so much of plastic that they can't survive. Have you had a close brush? Have you seen closely the perils of plastic pollution?
While I've not seen it exactly plaguing the oceans, I've seen plastic pollution littered all across, like the streets and nearby my house, and on the ground and the pavement and the roads. And there's just so many places I can name where I've seen plastic. And the worst part is I also see lots of stray animals consuming this plastic, which is really heartbreaking because plastic is really toxic. And the thing about plastic is when a lot of plastic is ingested, the creature will feel full, although they're not, right? They don't have much nutrition, and because of that, they die of hunger, and that is a very, very gruesome death. And and yeah, it's just one of the reasons why I really wanted to do something about this problem.
So, Haaziq, in the course of our conversation, you've raised a lot of pertinent issues with regards to marine pollution. The UN will be holding the second ocean conference in Portugal in 2022. Will you be participating in it? And if you will, then what are the pressing issues that you plan to raise there?
So, while I do have a role in United Nations major group of children and youth, specifically inside the Oceans Youth constituency, my role in the Oceans Conference in 2022 will really vary. So, but I will in some way contribute along with the rest of my Oceans Youth constituency members, contribute in some way to the Oceans Conference.
There are millions watching you today, and many of whom would also be aspiring innovators. What's your parting shot to them?
I think you just got to believe in yourself and just really, if you have the passion, really work hard towards what you really want to do and the problem that you want to solve, right? You got to have the determination and that grit. And also just try to surround yourself with the right environment. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my teachers, my friends, and of course, my family and my parents. So yeah, just have resilience, the determination is very important, determination, and surround yourself with the right people.
Well, it's quite commendable that India has such young and driven change makers like yours who are so invested into finding a solution to problems that concern life on the planet. Thank you, Haaziq, for having joined us.
Thank you so much for inviting me here.